The air in the congressional hearing room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Cameras flashed. A low hum of anticipation filled the ornate chamber. At the witness table, poised and resolute, sat Karoline Leavitt, her tailored blue suit a beacon of calm in a brewing storm. Just moments before, Congressman Adam Schiff, a titan of the Intelligence Committee, leaned into his microphone, a dismissive smirk playing on his lips. "Miss Leavitt," he declared, his voice dripping with condescension, "your youth and inexperience are showing. You clearly don't understand how national security oversight actually works." The words hung there, a public indictment. Committee members shifted. Reporters' fingers flew across keyboards. Millions, glued to the live stream, held their breath. Schiff, armed with law degree and decades of congressional power, was certain he just publicly neutered this 26-year-old former Trump White House aide. But Karoline Leavitt didn't flinch. Before her, a simple leather portfolio. Inside, documents no one in that room, least of all Adam Schiff, knew existed. Documents that were about to turn his condescending jab into a political inferno. This wasn't just another partisan squabble. This was Leavitt's moment to unveil a truth she'd painstakingly uncovered during her White House tenure. A truth that would make Schiff's mockery the bitterest words he'd ever uttered. Before we detonate this political bombshell, if you believe in holding power accountable and crave the stories the mainstream often buries, hit that like button and subscribe. You're not going to want to miss a second of this. The tension in the House Intelligence Committee hearing room had been ratcheting up all morning. Ostensibly, they were there to discuss information security protocols. A dry, technical subject. But this was Washington, and dryness rarely lasts. At the center of it, Karoline Leavitt. Her rise in conservative politics had been meteoric, making her a target for underestimation. Young, articulate, undeniably camera-ready. Many Democrats saw her as a telegenic mouthpiece, devoid of substance, a fatal miscalculation. Across the dais, Congressman Adam Schiff, 62, a former prosecutor whose national profile had exploded during the Trump impeachment sagas. He was a master of methodical takedown, the carefully crafted media moment. The hearing, called after a controversial leak of classified documents, was meant to be a stage. Leavitt, invited by Republicans to speak on communication protocols from her White House days, was supposed to be a minor player, easily dismissed. Schiff pounced early. "Ms. Leavitt," he began, peering over his wire-rimmed glasses, "you've made claims about proper document handling. Yet during that very administration, we saw unprecedented security breaches, discussions of classified information at Mar-a-Lago. Do you really expect this committee to take lessons from an administration with such a problematic record?" It was a classic Schiff maneuver. Frame the witness, diminish her credibility, paint her as naive or complicit. Committee Chairman Mike Turner tried to intervene, urging a focus on protocols, not partisan attacks. Schiff smoothly parried. "I'm simply establishing the witness's expertise and perspective, Mr. Chairman." Leavitt took a slow sip of water, her face an unreadable mask. The stakes were immense. For a young operative, these high-profile exchanges are crucibles. They forge careers or break them. What no one knew, what Schiff couldn't possibly have fathomed, was that Leavitt had not only anticipated this exact line of attack, but she had come armed. During her White House days, privy to security briefings, she'd stumbled upon information directly relevant to Schiff's own handling of sensitive intelligence. Information that had, just 3 days prior, been meticulously and quietly declassified through channels few even knew existed. "Congressman Schiff," Leavitt began, her voice a steady, clear counterpoint to his dismissiveness, "I appreciate your concern about proper handling of sensitive information. That's actually a subject I researched extensively, including reviewing the handling of Intelligence Committee materials during the past 6 years. A flicker in Schiff's eyes. A micro-expression, gone in an instant, but a tell. He hadn't expected this pivot. "Ms. Leavitt," he countered, "we're here to discuss current security issues, not relitigate partisan grievances." "This isn't about partisan grievances, Congressman," Leavitt replied, her hand moving to the portfolio. "This is about consistent standards of information security that should apply to everyone entrusted with our nation's secrets." As she carefully withdrew a folder, its classification markings conspicuously crossed out, stamped declassified. A new kind of energy pulsed through the room. Members on both sides leaned in. Reporters' heads snapped up. "Mr. Chairman," Leavitt said, turning to Representative Turner, "I've been authorized to share recently declassified information directly relevant to this committee's practices. Would now be an appropriate time." Turner, clearly blindsided, nodded cautiously. "Proceed, Ms. Leavitt." The documents Leavitt was about to unleash didn't just challenge Schiff's narrative. They were a direct torpedo aimed at his carefully constructed image as a solemn guardian of intelligence. As Leavitt began to arrange the papers, Schiff urgently whispered to his staff director. "Point of order, Mr. Chairman." Schiff interjected, his voice now carrying a distinct edge. "We have no verification of whatever documents the witness is presenting." "Certainly, Mr. Chairman," Leavitt responded, unruffled. "What I'm presenting are materials declassified through a Directive 14 procedure by the current National Security Council 3 days ago. They include security logs, transmission records, and internal review findings related to intelligence handling procedures from 2019 through 2022. She held up a cover sheet, official declassification stamps, and authorization codes clearly visible. A staffer examined them, conferred with Turner. The chairman, gripping his pen tighter, announced, "The committee will proceed, but I'll remind the witness that despite declassification, care should still be taken regarding operational details." The room fell into a heavy silence. Democratic staffers furiously typed on their phones. "Congressman Schiff," Leavitt began, "moment ago you questioned my understanding of security protocols. However, these documents reveal a troubling pattern that directly contradicts your public positions." She held up the first document. "This is a security log from May 2020, documenting a significant security violation involving the transfer of sensitive compartmented information outside approved channels. According to the investigation findings, classified material from a closed Intelligence Committee session was transmitted to unauthorized recipients." Schiff's knuckles whitened around his microphone. "Ms. Leavitt, without seeing these supposed documents, I can't address vague allegations, but I categorically reject any implication of improper handling." "I understand your concern, Congressman," Leavitt replied, coolly sliding the document onto a projector. It flashed onto the large screen behind her. Redacted, yes, but key headers, dates, and most crucially, official security review letterhead with Schiff's name clearly referenced in the individuals involved section. Gasps rippled through the room. "The security review," Leavitt continued, her voice unwavering, "documented that talking points containing classified signals intelligence were transmitted from your committee office to 3 media contacts in direct violation of Section 3.2 of the committee's own security protocols. The subsequent investigation found that these disclosures necessitated the modification of active intelligence collection operations at significant cost to national security." Republicans leaned forward, transfixed. Democrats whispered urgently. Schiff, his voice tight with controlled fury, shot back. "S. Leavitt, you're clearly participating in a coordinated political attack, using selectively edited materials." Leavitt met his gaze. "Congressman, every document I'm presenting has been properly declassified and authenticated by the current administration's officials. Officials you yourself have repeatedly praised. If you question their authenticity, you're welcome to take that up with your colleagues at the NSC who authorized their release." She turned to the second document. "This security assessment from December 2021 is even more concerning. It details how classified information regarding human intelligence sources in Eastern Europe was compromised following an unsecured conversation in a congressional office. The report specifically notes that details matching the compromised intelligence appeared in a Washington Post article the following week, attributed to sources familiar with the committee's work." The background hum of the hearing room had died. Even the most jaded staffers were frozen, watching. Representative Darren LaHood, a Republican, interjected, "S. Leavitt, just to clarify, these security incidents occurred under the current committee leadership, documented by our intelligence agencies, but never disclosed to the American people or even to committee members like myself?" "That's correct, Congressman," Leavitt confirmed. These security reviews were conducted by career officials. They documented multiple violations between 2019 and 2022, yet no public accountability followed. In fact, she displayed a third document. This internal communication shows that certain committee leaders were exempted from the standard security violation procedures that would apply to other government officials. Schiff, visibly agitated, erupted, "Mr. Chairman, this is outrageous. The witness is selectively presenting classified material." "With respect, Congressman," Leavitt interjected firmly, "nothing I'm showing is currently classified. Every document has been properly declassified. I'm simply letting the intelligence community's own findings speak for themselves." The tension was unbearable. Chairman Turner, recognizing the political dynamite, called for a 15-minute recess. As representatives filed out, reporters scrambled. What began as Schiff's attempt to belittle a young conservative had morphed into a potential intelligence oversight crisis of historic proportions. When the committee reconvened, the air was different. Gravity had replaced posturing. Several Democrats were conspicuously absent. More Republicans had arrived. Chairman Turner, his voice somber, announced, "During the recess, committee leadership has confirmed the authenticity of the declassified documents presented by Ms. Leavitt. Ranking Member Schiff has requested 5 minutes to respond." Schiff, his usual fluidity gone, offered a rigid defense. "What we're witnessing today is a shameful partisan exercise. I categorically reject any implication of improper handling. These documents have been cherry-picked." Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, Leavitt's former boss, cut him off. "Point of order, Mr. Chairman. The ranking member is attacking the witness rather than addressing the substance of the declassified documents, which we have now confirmed are authentic." Turner nodded. "I would remind all members to focus on the substance." Schiff, jaw tight, finished his denial. Turner then turned back to Leavitt. "MS. Leavitt, you indicated you have additional information?" This was it. Schiff was betting on dismissal, partisan attack, no context. Leavitt's next move was critical. "Thank you, Mr. Chairman," she began. "I want to address Congressman Schiff's concern about context directly." She retrieved a final, thicker document. "What I'm presenting now isn't a single incident, but a comprehensive pattern analysis conducted by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. This report, now declassified, examined all documented security incidents across congressional committees handling classified information from 2018 through 2022. She projected a graph. Committee names along the bottom, incident tallies as bars. One bar under Schiff's committee towered over all others. This analysis found 27 documented security violations under Congressman Schiff's leadership, more than 3 times the next highest committee. The report specifically notes that 14 of these incidents involve the unauthorized disclosure of information to media sources in patterns that, and I'm quoting directly, indicate a systematic rather than inadvertent approach to utilizing classified information for narrative-shaping purposes outside official channels. Absolute silence. The data was a visual gut punch. Most critically, Leavitt continued, turning to a timeline chart, the analysis correlates these security violations with public statements by committee leadership. In 11 documented cases, Congressman Schiff made public claims directly supported by classified information that had been improperly disclosed to journalists within the previous 72 hours. She looked directly at Schiff, whose face had gone ashen. This isn't about a single incident taken out of context. Congressman, this is about a documented pattern identified by career intelligence professionals. Then the kill shot. The report includes a particularly concerning finding regarding a September 2020 incident. Classified signals intelligence was leaked, compromising technical collection methods and necessitating the abandonment of an ongoing counterintelligence operation. She displayed a redacted internal NSA email. This email from the NSA director to the DNI refers specifically to Congressman Schiff by name, expressing grave concern over the repeated compromise of sensitive collection platforms following restricted briefings to the HBSCI chairman. The evidence was devastating, specific, sourced from the intelligence community itself. Chairman Turner, recognizing the historic weight, announced the committee would need time to review and determine next steps, possibly a formal investigation. Schiff, shaken, made a desperate plea to remove the materials from public display, pending further review of their declassification. Leavitt was ready. "Congressman, I have here the signed declassification authorization from the current Director of National Intelligence, appointed by President Biden, confirmed by a Democratic-controlled Senate." She held it aloft, the seal unmistakable. "These materials have been properly declassified. The American people have a right to know when their trust has been violated, regardless of party." The hearing ended, but the shock waves had just begun. Karoline Leavitt hadn't just survived an attack. She turned the tables with such meticulous, undeniable force that the landscape of Washington itself had tilted on its axis. The powerful chairman, who sought to diminish her with a sneer about youth and inexperience, now faced a political firestorm ignited by his own documented actions, laid bare by the very person he'd so gravely underestimated. The gavel fell, but it wasn't an ending. It was a starting gun for a political reckoning. What the press swiftly dubbed the Leavitt revelation didn't just dominate a news cycle. It detonated careers and reshaped power dynamics in Washington. Within hours, Speaker Mike Johnson announced a special investigative committee. Democratic leadership, initially dismissive, found their position crumbling as their own members, particularly those with national security backgrounds, reviewed Leavitt's bone-chilling, declassified evidence, and demanded answers. Adam Schiff, once the formidable inquisitor, became the investigated. His Senate campaign in California, once a sure thing, imploded. Donors vanished. Senior staff resigned. The House Ethics Committee launched its own inquiry. Perhaps most damning was the Director of National Intelligence's formal statement confirming the document's authenticity and announcing a sweeping review of how Congress itself handled classified information. The message was clear. The leaks, the patterns, the compromises, they were real and they were serious. And Karoline Leavitt? Overnight, she became a conservative icon, yes, but more profoundly, a symbol of something deeper. Jen Psaki, no political ally, conceded on MSNBC. This was a masterclass. Leavitt came with receipts, anticipated every counterargument, and never lost her composure. Leavitt herself, in a rare statement, eschewed partisan victory laps, simply stating, this was never about politics. It was about accountability. Months later, the Special Investigative Committee, in a bipartisan vote, confirmed the core of Leavitt's presentation. A persistent, systematic pattern of selected disclosures under Schiff's leadership, compromising sources and methods. The fallout was a quiet revolution. Congressional committees tightened security. Members with questionable records quietly stepped away from sensitive assignments. Whistleblower protections for intelligence officials reporting on elected officials were strengthened. But the true, lasting impact wasn't just in new rules or ruined careers. It was in the shattered illusion of untouchability. Time magazine, in a profile titled Washington's New Generation, captured the essence. What began as an attempt by a veteran politician to dismiss a young woman transformed into a moment that exposed complacency and hypocrisy that often infects Washington's power structures. The most potent irony, as a senior intelligence official anonymously told Time, was that Schiff's own arrogance had been his undoing. If Congressman Schiff hadn't attempted to publicly diminish Ms. Leavitt that day, the official stated, these revelations might never have come to light. His condescension created the perfect opportunity for her to reveal what she knew. Karoline Leavitt, at 27, found herself catapulted to the highest echelons of political operations, not because of luck, but because she understood a fundamental truth of power. Preparation is paramount, and underestimation is a weapon best wielded by the one who appears to have none. The era of casually dismissing young operatives as mere props was over. The lesson was seared into the collective memory of Washington. Beware the quiet ones, the ones you think you can mock into silence. They might just have a portfolio full of receipts, declassified and ready to change everything. The day Adam Schiff tried to make Karoline Leavitt small, he inadvertently made her, and the truth she carried, monumental.